Hi, my name's Paul Grogan and welcome to the Gaming Rules Monthly Video Log Best Games of the Month, whatever you want to call this video, for December 2023. And just before we start, if you wonder what all of the strange noises are that you can just about hear in the background, it's because I had the window slightly cracked open and there were a lot of church bells in the background. I didn't think they were going to be picked up on the microphone, but now that I'm editing the video, you can hear them in the background. So apologies for that, but that's what the strange noises are. Now, I know I say this every month, but I'm going to try and keep this video brief. It's currently December 30th. It normally takes me, as I've mentioned in previous video logs, about a day to a day and a half to create these video logs. I've got about 4 or 5 hours to do it in. I'm going to the bus station tonight to pick up my dad, who's coming down to stay with us for a few days. Tomorrow, got house jobs all day because it's New Year's Eve tomorrow and we're hosting a party. So yeah, I really don't have much time to get this video log done. The reality is, I'm probably not going to get it finished by the end of this year. So Happy New Year, everybody. I will probably release this video log at the very start of January. But anyway, in this video, I am going to be talking about all of the games that I've played in December, which ones were my favourites, and then I'm going to keep the rest of it brief. I'm not going to go into too many other details. I'm just going to focus on the games that I've played. As always, a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for funding the channel. This video is not sponsored in any way by anybody, and all of the advertising revenue goes to charity. So I don't make any money out of these videos, and I'm only able to do that thanks to the support of the Patreon. So yeah, huge thank you to all of my existing Patreon supporters. And if you want to support the channel and help me continue to do what I do, then you can do so at patreon.com/gaming rules. Right, so on with the games. First one is on the 1st of December, which I believe was a Friday. Pete came over and we played Halls of Hegra. Now, Halls of Hegra is a solo game only, but Pete borrowed it and he'd been playing it himself. He'd learned how to play and he came round on the Friday afternoon and we did a solo game of it. But as many of you will know, my solo games, I actually prefer playing solo games with 2 people working together, and it worked really well. For a start, I didn't know how to play the game, so Pete actually taught me how to play the game, and we played the game. Now, Halls of Hegra, I will give you my honest opinion on it. This was a video that I did. It was a live stream on the channel, if you want to see that. As I say, in that video, Pete taught me how to play, and then we played a game of it. But it wasn't a sponsored video, so I can tell you my honest thoughts on the game. So I loved it. I thought the game was great. I really, really enjoyed that play of the game. I have only played it that once. I did want to get back to it, but as always, ran out of time. I do want to get back to it again at some point in the future. So there's parts about the game that I liked. In fact, there's a lot about the game that I liked. I absolutely loved that playthrough. But I've reflected on the game since then, and I've got some extra thoughts that I want to add about it. First of all, I thought it was a very well-designed game. I thought the mechanisms of the game, I thought the way that the whole game was put together, I thought that was really good. You've got various things, you've got bits that you pull out of a bag to determine what people you've got to help defend. I loved the historical the historical setting of the game, because it's so many World War II war games are all about Americans versus the Germans and things like that, and this is different. This is about a real thing that happened when Germany invaded Norway, and yeah, I like that. There's a lot of history in there in what happened, and as I say, I like the way that the game has a lot going on, and the game has a certain flow to it. So at the start of the game, you can only do certain things, and then the Germans start their first siege or their first attack. And then they fall back, and then they do their second attack, and then they lay siege, and different things will happen at different times of the game. So that's a nice progression as it goes through. It is a very difficult game, apparently. I mean, we struggled. There are ways that you can customize it to make it easier or harder, but it is a very difficult game. And my thoughts on the game, as I say, after playing it once and coming away from it, was I'm comparing it to other solo war games that I've played. And I've not played many of these on the channel, but one of them that I have played, sorry about that, was Pavlov's House. And Pavlov's House is a game which I have covered on the channel. That was a longer game. So Pavlov's House was definitely a longer game. But the difference is, in Pavlov's House, it was one of the most, if not the most, tensest playthroughs that I've done. It was edge of the seat all the way through. And you couldn't call it, because there were bits that went well and bits that didn't go well. In Halls of Hegra, And again, this is my opinion after one game of it, so let me know what you think about this. But the start of the game, the first few rounds of the game, is where you need to build up your defences, because the Germans have been sighted, oh, they're coming, but they haven't actually started launching their attacks yet. So you need to be, getting the guns out of the snow, repairing them, fixing the walls, doing this, going on patrols, getting supplies. You need to be doing that at the start of the game. That's not a problem. That's what you do. However, once the game starts to turn in the Germans' favour, which it inevitably will do, it is then a kind of spiral down. There is no, again, don't sue me if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's a downward spiral. Once you get over that curve of, oh, actually, I think we're doing all right. Oh, no, wait a minute, the Germans have destroyed that wall. Oh, and they've blown up some supplies. Oh, and now that this has happened. It's downhill. And there's no road to recovery. There's no way that you can get it back. So it's about doing the best preparation job that you can, and then just struggling to hold on to see if you can survive. Now, if that is the game, that's fine. But my concern with the game is, unlike, as I say, Pavlov's house that kept it tense all the way through to the end, once you get over that curve where things start to go downhill, there's no way back. And you could call the game before the end and say, look, we're never going to recover from here. Again, I'd love to be proved wrong on that. This is just my initial thoughts after one game. And whilst I loved it, that is a concern that I have about the game. And I do want to play it again, and I do want to hear from other people to see what you think about it. But yes, definitely check it out if you like your historical settings, solo war games. I know it's going to be getting a lot of buzz in the solo wargaming community, and quite rightly so. So that's Halls of Hegra. Also that evening, we played Evenfall. Now, Evenfall has been on my list of games that I really wanted to play since getting back from Essen. I got my Patreon supporters to vote on the order in which I would play the games that I brought back, and it was time. Evenfall was the next on the list, so we played it. And very, very good game. Really, really enjoyed Evenfall. A lot of people that have played it had told me that it was really good, so I was already expecting to like it, and I did enjoy it. Now, the game is not without its faults, and one of those is the rulebook isn't particularly great, but thankfully a number of friends of mine had been through that process, had learnt the game, and had come across a number of things that were quirky with the game, and found out the answers to them. That made our playthrough go a lot smoother. It's a card-driven game, and there's lots of different cards in the game, and you've basically got this, you're a witch, I think you're a witch, and you've got various powers, but what you're doing is you're gaining these cards and you're putting them in an upper level, and then you're trying to transfer them down to the lower level, because that's where they're going to be worth points. I don't actually remember that much about the game, which is sad to say, because I have only played it that once, but I do remember really enjoying it. And it is a game which might make my top 10 of 2023. One reason why I don't do my top 10 games of 2023, my personal list, is because games like Evenfall, I need to play that 2 or 3 more times. So it's on the list for a game that I definitely want to play more of over the next few months, just to see how good it was. But straight away after playing that first game, I was like, well, I want an expansion. And that's not to say that there wasn't enough content in that base game. There was. It was just that I was enjoying it so much that I can see a future for this game with more cards and everything else. So apologies for not giving that much information about Evenfall, because I don't quite remember it. I just remember it being really good. But there is a playthrough on the channel if you want to see that. That wasn't a sponsored playthrough, so if you skip to the end of the video, we all give our thoughts on the game afterwards, and that's probably a bit more coherent than the thoughts that I'm giving you right now. Okay, moving on. The 3rd of December was Voidfall Day. I also played just one, but let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Voidfall. So 3rd of December was the, every few months at the Cranbrook Games group, there is a games day on a Sunday. And I decided I wanted to play Voidfall because I love Voidfall. I think it's a fantastic game and I just want to play more of it. And a day like that is an opportunity to play it. So the rough plan was that I would get there early and would set the game up, and we'd then play a 3-player game of it. And then if there was time, because enough people wanted to play it again, we'd then play it again. Now, bearing in mind the club starts at about 9 o'clock and finishes at 5 o'clock, I was thinking, oh, we might be able to do this, we might not. Anyway, I then said, it's probably not going to happen. So we'll take some backup games. We'll play the first game, but we're probably not going to get the second game in. Anyway, by about, 12:30, 1 o'clock? I think it was about 1 o'clock. We'd finished that first game. I was like, oh, we will be able to get a second game in. And we did. So in that 7-hour period, I set the game up. That was the first 45 minutes. We then played a game, a 3-player game. We then kind of reset and we played the same scenario. So we reset it up and then we played it again. Now, Voidfall, I've spoken about Voidfall before. I'm not going to say too much more about Voidfall in this video, but it is my favourite game of 2023. And I can say that now, even though I'm not going to tell you what my other top 10 games are, because I don't know yet, but Voidfall is definitely my number one. And I don't think there's anything that's going to knock it off that spot of my favourite game of 2023. I have done some sponsored videos on the game. That is totally different from my personal opinion on the game. But if you want to learn how to play Voidfall, I have done a video for it. I've done a playthrough video as well, if you're interested in that. So yeah, that was Voidfall Day. And as I say, we did get a quick game of just one in at the end as well. Next up, Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I played it 3 times in December. And I just wanted to give you a bit of a recap on where we are at the end of the campaign. Not the end of the campaign, but at the end of our current campaign, because unfortunately, due to other circumstances, we're going to have to put our campaign on hold. We are probably about 3/4 of the way through Cycle 1. We're on day 49, I think it is. We are now on to story card 4 out of 4. So we are on the last part of the story. We have, our characters have developed. We've crafted lots of new gear. We are definitely in what feels like the end of Cycle 1 part. We are now fighting level 3 Labyrinthaurus and level 3 Hecaton. I think we're about to fight a level 4 monster next, maybe. As I say, we're on the last story card. We're about 12 or 13 of the way through the Inward Odyssey. We've unlocked an extra Titan. We've got all sorts of extra stuff. But we would have continued, but we're going to have to put it on hold. So it is my most played game of 2023. I think I've played it 24, 25 times, something like that. All of the campaign playthroughs are on YouTube for Patreon supporters. These are very much behind the scenes playthroughs. They are not up to my normal quality. So they're not really suitable for public consumption. Because I am actually being commissioned by Into the Unknown to create the official how to play videos for the game, which are still in progress. I have been working on them for the last 5 months. I've been working on them over the last few days. And I'm going to continue to work on them in January. But progress is going really well on those. And I should be getting those out at some point in Q1 of 2024. They are how to play videos rather than playthrough videos. I don't have any plans to do any playthrough videos of the game on the channel. There's plenty of other channels that have done those. The videos that I'm creating are more the pure how to play videos. Anyway, we are hoping to get back to the campaign because we definitely want to finish Cycle 1 at some point, and the rough plan is that we'll get back to it sometime around February, March next year. So that's Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Next up is Age of Innovation. Now, I'm surprised, actually. I mentioned earlier on that when I got back from Essen, I put all of the new games that I brought back from Essen up on my Patreon page and got my Patreon supporters to vote on the order in which they wanted to see those games. I thought Age of Innovation was going to be higher. And I'm actually a bit surprised that this game hasn't had more buzz. And I think I probably know why, because it is Terra Mystica 2. That's what it is. It is 2nd edition Terra Mystica. It is 85% the same as Terra Mystica, maybe 90%, with some extra bits added on there. And maybe a lot of people have moved on and want new games rather than rehashes of old games. But I loved it. I think it's fantastic. Terra Mystica for me will never get played again. I don't own Gaia Project, so I can't say whether I would play Age of Innovation over Gaia Project. I've spoken to a lot of people about this over the last few weeks. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've played Age of Innovation and Gaia Project, which is the best one? Because I'm getting a 50-50 response from the people that I've spoken to. I think there's room for both in the collection, and I probably will get a copy of Gaia Project at some point. But I really enjoyed Age of Innovation. Now, if you don't like Terra Mystica, this game is not going to change your mind. But if you like Terra Mystica, personally, I think this is a better version of the game. I've spoken to one person who says, no, they prefer the original Terra Mystica, and that's absolutely fine. The downside of the new version, it is more complex, and Terra Mystica is already a heavy game. So this is a heavy game with an extra 10% of stuff thrown on the top. But I did enjoy it. In fact, I've covered it on the channel. There is a playthrough on the channel, and again, if you skip to the end of that video, it was a 2-player game with me and JP from the Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast. At the end of that video, we give our thoughts on the game. I had played it earlier on that day as a practice game, and then we played it again in the evening. So I played it twice that day. The practice game was live streamed to my Patreon supporters as a behind the scenes Paul learns how to play the game, but the public one is the one that we played in the evening. Now, I'll be honest with you, after that game that we played in the afternoon, I was a bit overwhelmed. And I was like, okay, well, I enjoyed Terra Mystica. I mean, I was a huge fan of Terra Mystica when it came out and played it loads, absolutely loads. But playing it again, going back to it and playing it again, when I remembered this is already quite heavy, and suddenly there's all of these extra rules for these neutral buildings, and there's these other things, and then there's these innovation, and then there's these books, this extra current, and I was like, oh, I was a bit overwhelmed. So I was thinking, okay, we'll do the playthrough in the evening, because that's what we're doing. But, yeah, bit too much for me. That's what I thought. However, playthrough in the evening went really well. The fact that it was a 2-player game and it absolutely zipped by helps, but I would have been happy playing 3-player as well. I can't even remember if it goes up to 5. I think it might go up to 5. Wow, that would be slow. That would be a long game. But it zipped through. And my feelings in the afternoon of this is a bit too much, they went away. So if you play it and you do feel the same as me and you feel, oh, this is a bit too much, there's a bit much going on here and there's a bit too many rules, play it again. In fact, play it again straight away. That's what I did, and it worked well. So I really enjoyed that playthrough. And if it wasn't like late and we didn't have to build in the morning, we'd have probably played it again straight away. So yeah, that was that was Age of Innovation. Very much looking forward to playing that one again. And that is now in the collection, and Terra Mystica has gone into tertiary storage in the attic. Next up, Revive. So I've actually got 4 playthroughs of Revive in December, which makes me very happy because Revive was in my top 10 games of 2022 and probably should have been higher than I put it. I think I put it about 5th, and I'm starting to think it possibly should have been 3rd or 4th because I love the game. Revive is one of those games which just ticks all of my boxes. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, mechanically it's nothing new. For me, it felt fresh, it felt new, even though you're doing a lot of similar things. And yeah, I played it 4 times. Now, why have I gone back to Revive? Because the new expansion just came out. So there's a new expansion for it that came out a few months ago, and I wanted to cover that on the channel. Again, not a sponsored playthrough. In fact, almost none of these videos are sponsored that I'm talking to you about. But I needed to go back and relearn the base game. So I went to the Games Club on the 7th, played the base game of it. Then I learnt it with the expansion and played a 2-player game with Arthur on the 15th, I think. And then twice more on the 22nd. And that's the one that's on the channel. So if you want to go to the channel and if you want to see, there is a 2-player playthrough. I think it was 2-player. Yeah, I think it was 2-player. Anyway, it's a playthrough of Revive with the expansion. Now, as I said, Revive, I really enjoy the game. The expansion, I think, makes it better. It doesn't need an expansion. I think the base game is a great game, but the expansion does add a whole bunch of extra knobs and levers to pull and things to do. There's an extra track for you to move up. It kind of opens it up. There's a number of, there's a few more options in what you can do, and you won't do all of those options. So you'll get to the end of the game, and that's one of the things about Revive which I really like, is it's actually a short game. We played a 4-player game of it in an hour and a half. This is a medium to heavy Euro, but it plays in an hour and a half, and it's quick, and the end of the game comes on you so quickly, and you feel, I've not really done very much. But actually, nobody's really done very much, and some people will have done, and particularly the machine that you have. I remember the last time I played it, I hardly developed my machine at all, but one of the players got to the end of 2 of the tracks. As I say, there's lots of different options with this game, lots of different ways to play it, and different things that you can do. So, playthrough is on the channel now. If you want to see it, Revive with the expansion, that is there. Really enjoyed it. Want to play it again. Also on the 15th, I played 4 games of Fliptown. Now, this was a sponsored video, and I was doing a sponsored playthrough of it in the evening. So what I did is I did a solo game of it in the morning to learn how to play. And then I did a practice game in the afternoon. Then I did another practice game in the afternoon. I think we played it twice in the afternoon. And then we did the actual live stream in the evening. So that's the one that's on the channel if you want to see it. Fliptown is a Kickstarter. It's from Right Stuff Games. And the designer, Stephen, contacted me and asked me if I wanted to do a sponsored playthrough of it. And I said, yes, I like, flip and write games. And it's got a sort of Wild West theme where you're flipping cards over, taking them to create poker hands, and trying to do all sorts of things. For more details, again, the playthrough is on the channel. I do a full teach of the game, and then we do a 3-player game of it. One thing that I would recommend, though, is the Texas Hold'em variant, which is the one that we used, is a variant in the rulebook. I personally think that should be the default rule for the game, because one of the things that you're doing in the game is you are drafting cards in order to be able to make up a poker hand. Now, when there are 5 rounds or 5 turns in a round or something like that, and in each of those turns you will draft 1 card. So you will get these 5 cards and you're trying to make a poker hand. Now, when I first played it without the Texas Hold'em variant, you're lucky if you can get a pair, because you're literally taking these cards. The chance of you getting a decent poker hand is actually quite slim. And if you play with the Texas Hold'em variant, then you actually have 2 cards at the start, which you keep secret from everybody else. You still draft the 5 cards over the course of the round, but then from those 7 cards, you then try and make the best poker hand you can. And that means you're actually going to get some proper poker hands and not just, oh, nothing, oh, you got a pair. Right, you're going to get people having 3 of a kind or a straight or things like that, or even a flush. So yeah, very, very strongly recommend the Texas Hold'em variant, which is in the rulebook as a variant, but I think that should be the default way to play. Anyway, that's Fliptown. It was a sponsored video. It's on the channel now if you're interested in playing it. It is one of these. It takes about half an hour to play. Our game took longer than half an hour, and that is because we didn't use simultaneous play. So it is one of those games where you flip the cards over and then everybody plays simultaneously. But for the purpose of the playthrough, we actually went through each player individually, explaining what they were doing and showing the individual player build. So yeah, if you go to the video and you think, oh, this is an hour and a half, Paul said it was a 30-minute game. It is a 30-minute game. So that is Fliptown. Next up, on the 17th, we went round to Mark and Sally's for our final meeting up before Christmas. And since we'd finished our Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth campaign the month before, we played another couple of games before we then went out for a nice meal. And the first one of those that we played was a game which I'd been given by Van Ryder Games many, many, many years ago at Essen and never got round to playing it. And this is Crusoe Crew. So this is a game which I doubt very, very many people have heard of. It is in their graphic novel adventures range, and they've done a whole bunch of these, and I've heard people talking about these, and we've got some of them ourselves. But this is a multiplayer, so it can actually take up to 4 players, and each player has their own book, and it is a graphic novel, so it's like a comic book, and you're going through it, and it'll say, oh, now turn to page such and such a thing, and everything else. So it's like those choose your own adventure books, but it's a graphic novel instead. So it's all images with people saying things and things like that. Anyway, it's fully cooperative. So you all sit around and you've all got your own book and you're all reading things. And what's really nice about the game is that different things, you'll all be at the same location, but you will see different things. So your perception of what you see will be slightly different from what other people see, even though you're all there. So you'll be like, oh, I can see a bird up the tree. Oh, I can't see a bird up the tree. Oh, well, I can. And it just represents the fact that one character is better at spotting birds up trees than another. So we enjoyed our play of it. It is aimed at a younger audience. Many, many people told me about this. When I posted about it and said, oh, has anybody played Crusoe Crew? I'm about to play it today. A lot of people said, this is aimed at kids. So you may find it a bit easy or not very good or whatever. So we went into it thinking, okay, we'll play it. We'll see how we get on. If it is a little bit too much for kids, we'll just stop playing and we'll play something else. So, a couple of things that I want to say about the game. First of all, we all enjoyed our playthrough of it. We played through for about, I can't remember. I think we played through for about an hour and a half. You're supposed to mark off the days. And I think there are 5 days or something like that. And whenever you see a certain symbol, you're supposed to mark off that symbol. And after 5 days, your playthrough is over. And you're trying to collect as many treasures as you can during that time. We decided, and this is in the rulebook, you can actually just ignore that and carry on playing as long as you want. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to keep playing until we felt we'd played enough. Because effectively what you're doing is you're going to an island and you're exploring and you're going in caves and you're finding things and the secret doors. We don't want to go, oh, 5 days is up, you just stop. We wanted to play for a bit longer. And the game is replayable because each time you play, you actually go to a different island and it'll be different things that you do. To address the comments that it's aimed at kids, I didn't find that. In fact, as we were playing it, although it is kids in the game and the sort of style of the artwork and everything is maybe a bit suited towards a younger audience, the actual puzzles we felt were not for kids. We were thinking about, as I say, we all went into it with this expectation that this is going to be for kids. But when we were trying to work out some of the puzzles and spot some of the secret numbers and things like that, we felt that, me and Vicky, who do a lot of these puzzle escape room games ourselves, we felt it was on a comparable level to those. Maybe a little easier, but certainly not for kids. The other thing I wanted to mention about the game, which was a bit of a downside, is I don't think it was translated very well. Either that or the rulebook just isn't very clear. So a lot of the things in the game, specifically around the rules, and you know me, I need to have my rules precise and absolutely clear, were not clear. Even right from the start, and again, I think it may have been a translation issue because you were reading some sentences and there may be things that just didn't read correctly. But we weren't sure about some fundamental things like, are we supposed to be finding all 3 treasures or do we just pick one? It kind of says you pick one, but then it says you might find others. And then when you're actually playing it, what are the actual treasures? Because we're looking for statuettes. Well, what's a statuette? There's no picture to tell you what it is you're looking for. Now, you're also looking for rubies and pearls, and they were fairly obvious. It's a ruby. But but there were a number of other things about the rules as well. We weren't sure whether we could split up and go in different directions. We ended up doing that, and we felt it played a lot better, and we kind of just fudged it a bit. Vicky got swept away at sea and stuck on an island. And then I think as far as the rules of the game go, we were supposed to literally just wait there for her to solve this puzzle on her own before she could get back. Well, we just said, well, rather than waiting here for her, let's go off on our own. We'll see what happens. So we actually kind of went off exploring another area on our own. The rulebook doesn't say that you can do that or how you meet up again afterwards. Anyway, there are parts of the rules that were a little bit woolly, but we enjoyed our play of it. On the same day, we had about an hour and a half free before we were due to go to the restaurant. I'd taken along a whole bunch of games which are Vicky friendly. So cooperative games that are not too complicated that we could play in about an hour and a half. I took a whole bunch of them with me, and the one that they picked was Oltree. Now, Oltree is a game which I've had for a couple of years. I covered it on the channel like 2 years ago, and I wanted to play it again. I've been wanting to play Oltree again for quite a while now because I enjoyed it. It's nothing super special. It's a nice cooperative game it's just a nice package. There's nothing amazingly groundbreaking about the game, but I just enjoyed the way that it played. Anyway, we all enjoyed it. And everybody said, oh, we play this again. So that was a hit. And we might play it again because I've only ever played the first 2 scenarios of Oltree, and I know there's an expansion set for it. So yeah, really enjoyed it. It's very, very hard. Now, it didn't feel very hard when we were playing it. We were like, oh, I'll go over here and I'll do this test and I'll do this and whatever. And then we won the game. Vicky did a certain thing and rolled a dice and went here and rolled really well and managed to do the thing that won us the game. And we're like, yay, that didn't feel really hard. And then I was like, wait a minute, weren't we literally going to lose the game on the next turn? Literally, if the story had advanced one more card, it would have been game over. And the only reason that the story didn't advance one more card is because Vicky on her turn rolled the whatever dice it is and got the dot, which means the story doesn't advance. So there was a 1 in 6 chance that we didn't lose the game. And then on Vicky's turn, she had to do this test, which was a really difficult test, and she rolled really well and did it. So we suddenly went, okay, no, this wasn't really easy. This was actually really hard. And I remember when I lent it to a few people and they played it, they said we've played Scenario 1 3 times before we beat it. So it is quite challenging in what you need to do. Anyway, that is Oltree. I'm curious to see how many people watching this video have played it and enjoyed it, because I think it went a little bit under the radar. But yeah, quite enjoyed that. Next up, on the 18th and the 20th of December, we started Agemonia. So Agemonia is a fantasy cooperative campaign-driven game which is being delivered to backers in February. February is the time when, if you have backed Agemonia, you should be getting delivery of it. They managed to get me an early copy. Literally, there were 2 copies that came out of the factory early. One of them has come to me, and that's because I'm filming a series of playthrough videos which will be edited down and be released in launch with when backers are going to get their copies. So we met up on the 18th and we filmed videos 1 and 2. I'm doing 5 videos for them. Then, unfortunately, there was a problem with the second video. So they came back on the Wednesday and we refilmed video 2. So those videos have now been edited. They are ready to go. I have added some corrections into them with some little things that we got wrong. And we are due to film videos 3, 4 and 5 in January. All ready to have them ready to go for the start of February. If you are one of my Patreon supporters, you do have access to us filming these videos because they are filmed here. They are live streamed. But then I take the videos down afterwards and I get them edited and I publish them as a new video. And Agemonia is the reason why we are pausing our Aeon Trespass Odyssey campaign, because in order for me to create these videos and be comfortable with the rules of the game for these videos, I need to practice playing. And that means for every time we do the playthrough video, which is going to be recorded and going to be the video which is released, I need to have played it beforehand. So that's what January is going to be all about. On every Tuesday night in January, instead of playing Aeon Trespass Odyssey, I'm going to be playing Agemonia. And the plan is that I will play scenarios 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 privately, offline, with Rick and Victoria at their house. And then the day after I've played at their house, Pete and Paul come round and we actually film the video here. So yeah, I'm going to be playing a lot of Agemonia in January. And as I say, if you're a Patreon supporter, you will have early access to those videos, but everybody else will get them, I think, at the start of February, which is when they want me to release the videos. Now, bearing in mind, I am professionally involved with the Agemonia project, and I'm creating these playthrough videos for them. So if you don't want to listen to my thoughts on the game, then what I'm saying is, if you don't trust my opinion on the game because I was paid to create the videos, then you might want to skip forward a few minutes. Agemonia is fantastic. I think Agemonia is very much underrated compared to how many other big, epic, fantasy, cooperative campaign games have there been. There's been loads. Loads and loads and loads of them have come out. And most of them are huge. Most of them have a massive Kickstarter and do really well. This is better than most of the ones that I've played and most of the other ones that I've seen. And the people I know that have played this have said this is really, really good. But the Kickstarter, unfortunately, didn't do that well. Now, it did well enough that the game has been produced, and they've done a fantastic job with the production of it. So the backers who back the game are going to get it, and there is a retail version of it. So you can actually buy it if you're interested in it. But my personal opinion on the game is it is one of the better GM-less games that there is. Now, the reason for that, there's a few reasons. First of all, I like the actual setting of this game, and I like the fact, I like the artwork and the design choices and things like that. But one of the things about this game is, and I'm going to compare it to Gloomhaven, because Gloomhaven is the biggest fantasy cooperative campaign-driven game. In Gloomhaven, which I love, fantastic game, but you get the bit of the scenario description, and then you go in and it is a tactical combat simulation. It isn't a role-playing game once you're actually playing a scenario. You might then open a door or stand on a trap or do something and it will tell you to read the next bit of narrative. That can happen. And you read the next bit of narrative and you get some extra blurb. But it is just a bit of narrative story, and then you put more monsters on the map and you play another tactical combat game. That's what it is. And as I love it, so I'm not criticising it, I'm just being honest, that's what Gloomhaven is. Agemonia actually feels like a role-playing game, because what happens is you set the map up, and the map is covered in these story points. And whenever you get near a story point, you take a card from the deck, and there's a big deck of cards, there's one for every story point, and you will read that story point. And it isn't just, I'll read a bit of narrative now, let's carry on with the game. It actually changes. The board evolves, enemies will appear, there will be other things happening, there will be tests on the card, things for you to do. Out of all of the games of that genre that I have played, this is the one that felt more like a role-playing game, but without the GM. In fact, the game itself is the GM. And I'm not just saying automated movement rules for where the enemies move. I'm saying in the way that the story reveals itself as you move through the map. Anyway, that is, as I say, it was on Kickstarter. It's successfully funded, not as well as I would have hoped. It is being delivered to backers in February, and at that point, I will be releasing my videos on playing the game. But yeah, really, really happy that the game has come out, and great to see the final production version of it. And I'll be playing that a lot more in January. So that's Agemonia. Next up, on the 21st, was the last club night before Christmas, and I went along, and my dad came with me, so we played some lighter games, because my dad come with me, I'm not going to sit down and play complicated games with him, but also because it was the last one before Christmas, there was a little bit of a lighter atmosphere. So I'm not going to talk too much about these games, because I've mentioned them many times before. It's a Balloon, So Clover, Just One, Secret Identity. All good, fun party games, and we managed to get all 4 of them played in an evening. So that was that. On the 22nd, now, why have I got this? Oh yes, so the 22nd, this is when there was the live stream of Revive. Also, after Revive, me and JP played Legends of Andor, The Eternal Frost. So Legends of Andor is a 2 to 4 player fantasy cooperative campaign game, except it's not really a campaign game. It's a series of standalone scenarios loosely connected by a story. But Legends of Andor is a game which I have got the original version of. I've got the first standalone expansion, and this is the 4th one. So this is the 4th box set in the series. It's published by Cosmos Games. It's actually designed by Michael Menzel, who is well known for his artwork in various games, but he's actually designed this game himself. And this game, I'm actually surprised that this game is still going. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because the game's okay. It's just I didn't think the game was popular enough to keep having all of these new expansions, or it's actually standalone expansions. So each of the box sets is a standalone game. And the last one, Eternal Frost, you don't need any of the other ones to play this one. It kind of is its own game, but it's based on the others. It's very similar. It's very big in Germany, I believe. So maybe that's why it's it's genuinely popular. It's got more stuff. Anyway, I wanted to cover this one because I remember enjoying Legends of Andor, and I quite like fantasy cooperative scenario-driven games. And this one is on the lighter end, but as I say, I remember liking it. So when I heard that the 4th one was coming out, I contacted Cosmos and I said, look, I do actually quite like Legends of Andor. Any chance of a review copy for this latest one? So I got it and we played it. It's on the channel, 22nd of December. It is on there. Me and JP went through Scenario 1. Now, Scenario 1 is a tutorial scenario. So like I say in the video, please don't be put off if you watch that video and think, oh, well, there's not very much to this game. Scenario 1 is very much learning how to play the game, learning the core mechanisms of the game. It's not really replayable because there isn't. It's pretty much on rails what you have to do in order to complete the scenario. So there isn't really any replayability in Scenario 1. Scenario 2 in the original game is a more advanced tutorial. I don't know about Scenario 2 in the Eternal Frost, but in the original game, Scenario 3 is the actual game, is variable setup, and I don't know about this new one. Now, having gone back to it again, I was actually a little bit disappointed. Now, that's not to say that we didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it, but I think games of that genre have evolved and moved on. And there was one thing that I was a little disappointed by, and that was that Scenario 1 for that game was basically a copy of Scenario 1 from the previous version. So for me, it was nothing new. It was just, oh, here we go again with this same thing that we've done before. For anybody new coming into it, because this is a standalone expansion, not really even an expansion, it's a standalone game, they would need that. Maybe there's only one way to do tutorial. I don't know. I want to dive more into this game, but yeah, I was a little disappointed that the first scenario was just the same as what I've already done. I have spoken to other people who've played it and haven't played any of the other ones, and they really enjoyed it. So I think that was just my perception of it having gone back to it. And as I say, I want to try the other scenarios. But one of the other things about this game is, as I mentioned, a lot of games have come out like this that have moved on. I think this game only has 4 scenarios in it, and one of them is the tutorial, and the second one might be a more advanced tutorial. And a lot of games are coming out these days with lots and lots of scenarios. Now, this is a smaller game. This isn't a $150 Kickstarter filled with miniatures or anything like that. This is a standalone, smaller box game, but I don't know. I'm not sure about the replayability based on the number of actual scenarios in the game. Then again, how much time do we have? You know, we have time. We need time to put into campaign games which require 20, 30, 40 plays. This one doesn't. This one isn't that. So although there are scenarios and it's called as sort of a campaign, it's not really. It's standalone games. Anyway, that's Legends of Andor. Right, on the 23rd, and again on the 28th, I've played Earthborne Rangers, and I have quite a bit to say about this. So, the 23rd, Vicky was away at her parents for a meal. I was here with my dad. So in order to spend a bit of time with him, we played a game together. So I brought a whole load of games downstairs, and I said, look, Dad, it's just me and you tonight. Here's a bunch of games which I think are suitable for us to play. And I went through them and I briefly described them, and he picked Earthborne Rangers. And I said to him, I said, look, I don't know how to play this game. I've just got it. I'm probably going to be covering this game on the channel in the new year. I didn't say that to him. I'm saying that to you. But at some point, I need to learn this game. And I have heard so many people talking about this game and rating it really, really highly. After getting the game, I was like, I'm not going to have any time or mental energy to put into this game until the new year. But it's been sat there on the shelf calling at me because I keep hearing so many people say so many good things about it. So I thought, right, okay, this is an opportunity. And I said to my dad, I said, look, I don't know how to play this game. I don't know how complicated it is, but it has a kind of tutorial prologue kind of thing that will teach us how to play the game. So if you're happy that we both go through the process and we will learn this game together, and we'll see how it is. And that's what we did. So that was on the evening of the 23rd. It didn't go too well. So, first of all, I realised about 45 minutes in that it was a bit too much for me dad. He was struggling to understand. I mean, I'm used to card games. I am used to Arkham Horror card game, Marvel Champions, playing LCGs, TCGs, CCGs, for 25 years. So I'm used to card games and cards with keywords and icons and values and things like that. And cards in different locations. All of that, easy. My dad, not so much. So we had cards everywhere. And it was all a bit too much for him. It was a little bit overwhelming for him to take into account all of those things. So it was more of an experience for me that I had to go through. The second thing about it is, I have to say that I don't think the prologue is a very good tutorial for the game. I have to be honest, I don't think the rulebook for the game is very good. I think there are a number of things in the rulebook that are not clear. I think there's a number of really important key rules which are kind of hidden at the back in an appendix. The main 4 common tests that you can do, they're not explained. They're really just kind of abstractly explained in loose terms. Oh, you should sort of do this. And it's like, no, I want somebody to sit me down and actually say, right, here's this test. Here's what it does. Here's why you want to do that. And here's how you resolve it. So I'm not saying the rulebook's the worst rulebook I've seen, because there are parts of it that are actually really well written. But overall, the rulebook is not great. And the prologue doesn't actually teach you how to play the game. The prologue is not a learn to play. It's not a tutorial. It's kind of, you've got to have read the rulebook first, but then you start playing with the prologue. But it kind of tries to do a guided teach, but it actually misses out some really important fundamental rules which aren't clear in the actual rulebook. So basically, we played it. We played 2/3 of the prologue before we stopped, because we were making mistakes. It's clear to me now, and I now know the rules of the game, but I want a tutorial or a learn to play guide or a prologue or whatever to teach me how to play and actually explain things, not just rely on my knowledge of the rulebook when the rulebook isn't actually that great. So that aside, I then played it again. I've played through the prologue myself, solo, while sitting downstairs. And Earthborne Rangers is the game that I can't get off my mind. Despite that issues that I've got with the game, Earthborne Rangers could be amazing. And as I mentioned earlier on, there are a lot of people who I've spoken to who've said this is their game of the year. And people who've not said it's their game of the year have rated it 8 or 9 out of 10. I've joined their Discord server. I've become part of their community. I've been engaging on there and talking to people. And this game, I can't sleep at night because I am thinking about this game and I want to play it more because I think this game might be great. I don't know. I'm still on this, hovering on the edge. But the more that I keep peeking at little bits of the game, I am seeing the cleverness in this game and how good it is. It might be. It might not be. I think it is. And I need to play it more to see. But I am very, very intrigued about this game. And I need to play it more. As I mentioned, I may be doing some sponsored playthroughs of this game at some point in the new year. I simply don't have the time or capacity in the next few months to do that. But if I'm going to do that, I need to be really learning this game and properly learning it and properly practicing it. So yeah, that's Earthborne Rangers. Watch this space for more about that. Next up, on the 24th. So this was Christmas Eve round at Vicky's parents'. We played It's a Balloon and Secret Identity, both fun party games that I've mentioned. Then on the 26th, we had our Boxing Day, which we basically moved Christmas Day to Boxing Day this year. So Vicky's parents came round here, and it was them, me and Vicky, and my dad. And we had a Christmas meal, but we also played Just One, and we also played Pictures. Always very good. We played Pictures with the new USA expansion. So the USA expansion is a whole bunch of extra picture cards, which are all USA themed. But there's 2 new ways of describing your picture. And I really liked those 2 new ways. So we've only got 1 expansion for pictures. I believe that there's 2 or 3 or 4 maybe. I'm going to get the others at some point because we really like pictures. Vicky really likes it. We're going to be playing it again New Year's Eve. Every group we've played it with has really enjoyed it. And having more ways to describe the cards is really good. So yeah. The last thing that we did on the evening of the 26th is we started playing Mother of Frankenstein Volume 2, and we did the jigsaw. That's it. So Volume 2 of Mother of Frankenstein contains puzzles separated into 3 parts, like Volume 1, and the first part was a jigsaw. So we basically sat down, the 3 of us, and we did a jigsaw, and that was it. We've not done anything with the jigsaw yet. In fact, my dad's on his way back right now, and we are probably going to be continuing playing that tonight. So yeah, that's Mother of Frankenstein Volume 2. 27th, I did a live play-along day for my Patreon supporters. So I put a poll up on my Patreon page and said, look, on the 27th of December, I am going to take the afternoon off from family time, and I'm going to do a live stream of something. What do you want to see? Do you want to see me painting miniatures? Do you want to see me playing a fighting fantasy book? What do you want me to do? And the thing that got the most votes was a live play-along day where I play a solo game of something and people at home can play along with it. And we did 3 games that day. We did Patchwork Doodle, we did Trails of Tucana, and we did Pioneer Rails. These are all games where one person can play and roll the dice or flip the cards or whatever, and everybody else, as long as they've got a sheet, can play along at home. Now, the Patchwork Doodle one was available online, and I have to say thank you very much to Andrew for sending me that copy of the game because I didn't have it. Trails of Tucana, the maps for that are available online. Pioneer Rails is not available online, but the kind folks over at Dranda Games sent me the PDF of it and I was allowed to share that with my Patreon supporters so that they could play along with it. So it probably took about 2.5, 3 hours. I enjoyed all of the games. Patchwork Doodle, nice and simple, but still stuff to think about, and I played awful. I really, really played badly. Trails of Tucana I really like. Pioneer Rails, quite complex. In fact, Pioneer Rails was definitely the heaviest of the three and probably took more time to explain, or about the same time to explain, as it did to play. Now, that's never a good sign with a game, but that's just because there is a lot going on in Pioneer Rails, and it is quite clever, and there is quite a lot of rules before you actually play the game. The advantage is, or the idea is, that you only need to go through that learning curve once, but it is a good game. It's probably the better of the three games, although Trails of Tucana is really good. Yeah, I'm not sure which is the best one. Anyway, thank you very much if you joined in that day and kept me company, and if you are one of my Patreon supporters, you can watch that video back and you can play along to it. It's there. You didn't have to join us live. That video is up there now for you so that you can play along with any of those games at your leisure. Last up, 29th of December, which is yesterday. Luke Hector came over because he was visiting family. And yesterday was the day that he was due to go home. So he called in here on his way home and we played the Lost Ruins of Arnak 2-player competitive game with the new expansion. Now, the new expansion, which is the Missing Expedition, actually has a cooperative mode and a campaign-driven mode to it, which is apparently very, very good. We just played the 2-player competitive game, but we used the new Waterfall board and we used the 2 new characters. So I'm a huge fan of Lost Ruins of Arnak, as is Luke. Luke says, I think he said it's in his top 10 games of all time, I think he said that yesterday. I can't remember. But the video's on the channel, and we do talk about our thoughts on the game at the end of it. For me, I love Lost Ruins of Arnak. I think it's a fantastic game, and the expansion is not needed, but it's really good. You know, because it's just more variability, more content, more things to think about. The 2 new characters, the journalist and the mechanic, work really well, and again, very creative with the way that they work. So, yeah. If you are a fan of Lost Ruins of Arnak, getting the expansion is an absolute no-brainer. And I do really want to play the campaign because the campaign from the first expansion... Was it the first expansion or the first game? I think, didn't the base game have a campaign that was released for free online? I think it did. So what did the expansion offer? Or did the expansion... I can't remember now. Anyway, I've played one campaign and it was really good. And I've heard this one is excellent. And it can be played solo or competitively. Solo or cooperatively. So that's Lost Ruins of Arnak. Now, I'm also just going to talk about the games that we're about to play tomorrow night. Because it will be Just One, So Clover, Pictures, Time's Up, etc, etc. All fun party games for New Year's Eve. I'll mention them in this video, even though I haven't actually played them yet, because that's what we're due to play tomorrow night. The only other games, I'm gonna skip the online plays. The only other thing that I've been playing quite a bit of is Dune Imperium on Steam. It's early access at the moment, but I've not found any bugs. It's perfectly playable. It's pretty much a finished game. They have done an amazing job with it. Direwolf Digital have converted Dune Imperium into a digital format game, and it's on Steam. It's early access. They kindly gave me a code to the game, and oh boy, it is very, very good. I've not had a chance to cover it on the channel yet. I will be doing that at some point, but yeah, really, really good. So, just before we wrap things up, I wanted to give you a quick Patreon update. As always, as I mentioned at the start, a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters that help fund the channel. And if you like this video and you want to support me and help me carry on making more videos, you can do so at patreon.com/gaming rules. Now, over the last 3 months, almost all of the videos that I've done have not been sponsored. Fliptown was sponsored this month, but I think that was it. I mean, the Agemonia videos were, but they've not even gone out yet. But yeah, all of those new games that I've covered from Essen, Age of Innovation, Halls of Hegra, Evenfall, And last month, loads. So basically, the last 3 months, I've not been doing much sponsored work. I'm going to be doing more moving forward into January, February, March. I've got a few sponsored videos booked in, but that's what the Patreon is for, is to fund the channel, fund these videos and everything else. So yeah, big thank you to everybody who supports me on Patreon. And normally, every month, I will get about 25 to 30 new people. And I will lose normally between 20 and 25 people. So the Patreon is gradually going up, but as I say, roughly 25 to 30 people leave in a month and about 25 to 30 new and about 20 to 25 leave. That's the on average. But I just want to talk about Patreon for a minute because they introduced this new thing a couple of months ago called free membership. And I thought that free membership was a great thing because what it allows you to do is it allows you to become a member of somebody's Patreon at a free level. So it doesn't cost you any money whatsoever. But every time they make a Patreon post, and all of my videos that I do, unless they are behind the scenes videos, they're all public posts. It means everybody who has basically become a free member gets those notifications. So if you're watching this video and you are not one of my Patreon supporters, you can go onto my Patreon page and become a free member and you will get the notifications. Anyway, however, I think it actually didn't work for me because what happened is in the first 3 weeks of December, I gained 20 new Patreon supporters, but only 2 of them were paying members. The rest of them were free members, which is great if you can join and you're a free member. But suddenly, instead of getting 20 to 25 new people a month, I got 2. So I realised what was happening. I realised that I talk about my Patreon in these videos and in all of my other videos, and people watching these videos go to my Patreon page and go, oh, I can become a member for free. Click, that's it. So actually, because the free membership was available on the main screen as an option, I think what was happening is people were going, oh, I can join for free. It's not going to cost me anything, which is fine. But what it did is it absolutely reduced the number of paying members that I got, which means until about a week ago, I'd lost 20 people this month and gained 2 new ones. And I thought, So I've looked into it and I've actually removed the free membership from the front page. So you can still become a free member. I can't remember exactly how you do it, but I know you can because 2 people have since I turned it off. So when I say I turned it off, all I've done is I've removed it from the front page. So if you go to my Patreon page, the free membership is not shown as an option. You can still become a free member. I don't quite know how, but I needed to do that, I think, because otherwise people were just joining as free members. Anyway, so that's what I've done. And actually since then, I think I've gained about 6 new supporters. So in total, we are down this month. I think I've gained 11 new people this month and lost about 20. But yeah, we're still okay. On screen now is a list of all of the new supporters that I have gained in December. However, I must apologise to those people who have rejoined the Patreon because, as I mentioned last month, because of various other changes that Patreon have made, they have changed the way that the reports run. And now I can no longer run a report to tell me who has joined this month. Well, I can, but if you were a Patreon member before and then left and then came back this month, you do not show on that report as a new member. And because they've now changed the way that the notification system works, it's impossible. So I know for a fact that there are some people missing from the list that I've put on screen because they were previous members who left and came back. So apologies for that. Nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. Right. So yeah, I think that's basically everything. As I say, I'm not going to talk about some other stuff because I wanted to try and keep this brief. I am going to try and get this video edited and out before the end of the year, but I don't know when I'm going to get that done. So, yeah, we're all done. Thank you very much to everybody for watching. As always, leave me any comments, any games that I've talked about in this video that you've got any thoughts on, let me know. Specifically, Halls of Hegra, Evenfall, Earthborne Rangers, Legends of Andor, Age of Innovation or Gaia Project, things like that. I really do. I'm not asking you to leave me comments just because I want to help the YouTube algorithm. I actually actively enjoy reading people's comments and saying, oh, I played Halls of Hegra once and really didn't like it, or whatever. I enjoy reading everybody's thoughts on those games. So yeah, let me know what you think about the games that I've talked about in this video. And we're all done. Have a good new year, everybody, although you'll probably be watching this video in January anyway. So I hope you had a good new year, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-byes.